Hello and welcome back to Core Finance. I'm Matt Brown. I'm joined today by Richard Matthews, who is a market commentator. Good day to you, Richard. Are you well?
I'm very well.
Good, good. Well, thank you very much for coming onto the show. And today we're going to talk about Fintech. All things Fintech. It seems to be a buzzword at the moment. Everyone looking at what Fintech is. A lot of companies rebranding as Fintech almost to get investment. So just talk us through your views of Fintech and what that means.
I'm very, very interested in Fintech because it's one of the few good news stories about Brexit, and all you hear is doom and gloom about Brexit, and Fintech actually is a success, and it's good to see. And I think that people should shout out more about this, and this is what I've been talking about in the last week or so. Fintech covers a multitude of sins, and whether it's people using old bits of technology, putting them together and dressing them up as Fintech on the one side, or on genuinely new initiatives, especially in banking, is another matter.
Understood. We've seen kind of schemes. I mean, even going back to David Cameron looking at promoting the Old Street roundabout and having these important hubs. How important do you think they are for the UK economy going forward when we look at we are a consumer-led, tertiary-led country, and industry has really kind of waned over the years. How important is it that we have Fintech as part of the UK structure?
I think it's very, very important. And Silicon Roundabout, I think, yes. It's rather amusing remembering what Old Street Roundabout used to be like. It's now very buzzy. I think as the fears over what will happen to the city after Brexit are there, I think Fintech actually is exploiting some of the resources that the city has got and will replace some of the finance that the city brings in.
And with regards to looking at the skill sets that we have in the UK, do you feel that Brexit and having immigration, certainly migrants coming in, economic migrants coming in and working in London, do you see Brexit as preventing that and thus preventing the development that we have in the Fintech sector?
No, not at all. I don't think that will prevent immigrants coming in. I don't think England ever has. I think this is something which the liberal elite seem to want to propagate, that we'll become a racist country against immigration. It actually annoys me. I won't go into a rant about it. I think that immigration in here actually brings business into Fintech because a lot of the Fintech businesses are new challenger banks looking at money remittance in particular back to countries where the immigrants have come from. So actually, I don't think it will affect them at all.
And do you think having being more open to business once we leave Europe is going to benefit certainly Fintech companies, that for companies looking to base here and develop here, London will stand out as opposed to being in Frankfurt or Paris? Will that be a benefit to?
Yes, I certainly think it will. I think that at the moment in the city that you've got the lawyers, you've got the accountants, you've got the bankers. And so actually if you're a new company looking to locate here and get into financial services, of Fintech financial services, there's absolutely ideally placed. And this will not change with Brexit. You will still have the lawyers, you'll still have the bankers. So I think we are uniquely placed because you haven't got that infrastructure in Paris or Frankfurt or anywhere else. It's interesting that I think London has 9 unicorn Fintech companies compared to Europe's 1. And I think that actually reflects how buzz and busy that London has been on this.
And with regards to the old guard, the old-fashioned banks and investment banks based in London and around the country as well, do you think they will be embracing Fintech, this new generation of Fintech, or will they stick to their guns and not move with the times?
It's an interesting thought, and I'm not going to get onto blockchain because I'm not going to sit here and try and stutter my way through explaining what blockchain is. I think that the banks will change, but partly some of the Fintech companies have been started because of the gaps in the banking system. For example, I sat on the phone trying to get hold of my banker at Lloyd's on something absolutely ludicrous. I changed my phone and I couldn't get my app to work. I was on the phone for half an hour. It's just absolutely bonkers that the old banks haven't changed. So Fintech will challenge them, certainly in the banking sector and in foreign exchange sector. Whether the banks are nimble enough to catch up, I don't know.
And do you feel, as well, with these gaps that are in the market that have come into place because maybe the banks aren't providing funding or lending in areas that businesses and individuals need, do you feel there'll come a point where, say, the FCA, the regulators, will look at the fintech industry and start putting more regulatory pressure on these new, for example, challenger banks, etc.? Do you feel they'll step up and pose a threat to any kind of fintech development?
I think that they'll have the regulation in place, and you can't call yourself a bank unless you are a bank and you have the proper licenses. And I think that from that point of view, that nothing will change. I don't think they'll be any stricter. They will have the same rules and regulations that they've got now. What I think is interesting is the shot they fired last week about ICOs, and whether ICOs are a legitimate way of raising funds or a challenging way to raising funds. I think the FCA will look at very, very closely.
And certainly in you're an ex-trader, certainly in the trading.
Sold Bitcoin.
You heard it here first. I wish we would have sold it last week. We're sitting on a tidy profit. But with regards to trading and how that's developing, I mean, we've seen the development of algorithms in trading. Is there still a place for an old school phone broker in the city? Or is it all going to be led by computers and robots?
The only place for an old phone broker in the city is being a market commentator, I would say. I don't think there is. I think there's going to be more and more problems with MiFID II and the transparency and the disclosure of price. And I think the days of phone broking, apart from very, very niche markets, have gone. Sadly, very, very sadly.
And so come the point, we're in September. September or October always seems to be a turbulent time for the year. So come the point where we may, not necessarily saying we will, but if we suddenly see a huge sell-off in these markets, and the Dow's at record highs, S&P at record highs, etc., with regards to, from a trading perspective, how do you think that will impact the market when you don't have phone brokers and you have a swathe of algorithms suddenly set to sell in the market? How do you think that feeds through to the market, and what could that mean for asset prices?
I think it's going to be very, very interesting. I think that the lack of experience in the city now of brokers who haven't seen a major sell-off. You know, it's 10 years since we really had a big, big move. 10 years is a long time in the city. I can go back a lot further than that, and many more sell-offs. I think, that there's a lack of experience and lack of understanding how to handle a big move. I think the algorithms will exaggerate movements, and you will automatically hit stops, which will move the market down, which will move the market down. Simply, I think it will exaggerate any move.
Understood. And without that phone broking, that old price discovery, people quoting two-way prices, maybe we could be in for a turbulent time.
I think we could be in a really turbulent time, actually. I think that the experience isn't there, and electronic trading is fantastic, but we haven't really seen it tested yet.
Understood. But in the meantime, things are looking bright for the UK fintech industry, and hopefully that will continue. Richard Matthews, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you, Matthew.